Hi all, welcome to a brand new course where we are going to talk about storytelling. Now, storytelling is something which we usually experience from our childhood. Like whenever we are a kid, we always love to listen to different stories, different types of mythological stories, animal stories, and definitely a lot of them have some moral thoughts and some outcome from those stories. So nevertheless, it continues the way we learn more, we develop as an individual, and we then learn or study in different types of subjects, and also we involve ourselves in our job profession wherever we go. The story is a very essential part of our life. Our life itself is a story of ourselves. Even if you see a lot of cases, famous personalities, they write biographies or autobiographies. It's nothing other than a story. And we inspire ourselves by listening to those stories, by reading those life stories, and we take some lessons. Similarly, in case of management study, technical study as well, we do read or learn a lot of things about case study. So case study is also another way to simplify certain concepts, certain theories, and certain thought process which is there in the management study, or maybe is very essential for a technical person as well. Now in this particular session, in this particular course, we are going to understand how storytelling is important in your business and for the branding of the organization. Branding can be for the organization, branding can be for the individual as well. So therefore, branding is an activity that is not only applicable for the organization. Nowadays, if you see, individual branding is also very important. A lot of cases, the CEO or the chairman, the key person of a global company, say for example, Google, Facebook, Microsoft, wherever you go, the personal branding of the most important or the key person of that particular brand is also very important, critical for the success of the organization. Therefore, in this particular course, we are going to understand how storytelling is important for our business, for the branding, and definitely how storytelling will enable us to become a leader, because all the leaders are a very good storyteller. If you cannot convey your message through a story or through a very constructive approach, definitely people will not acknowledge you, accept you as a leader. It can be a leader of an organization, it can be a political leader, it can be a leader of a society, country, whatever it is. At the end of the day, there must be a very good storyteller. It can be a live example from the life, or it can be described in such a way the overall concept will look like a story. Now, in this particular session, we are going to understand about what is storytelling, the art of storytelling for leaders, the storytelling process, how actually we can create a story, because only creating a story is not important. We must follow a process that the impact has to be there. Our objective has to be fulfilled. So we need to know how to create a business story. It's not a fiction story. It's not a biography. It's absolutely a business story, similar to case study, but not really only a case study. And also, we will understand, we will learn certain case study examples, certain story examples, which will help us to understand, which will explain us how we should create a story around our brand for the betterment of our business. Now, the first question will come in our mind: why do we tell stories? Why stories are coming into the picture? There are variety of reasons we tell stories. Sometimes we do it to sell, sometimes do we do it to entertain, sometimes we do it to educate or brag. But I want to discuss with you guys that why we are choosing storytelling, and how a data driven PowerPoint or bulleted list is actually very helpful to create a story, and why our stories go to way of sharing, explaining and selling information. How a story can be used to share information, to explain some information, and to sell some information. Now, everywhere you look, it can be a film, it can be a song, it can be somewhere certain videos, it can be certain examples. Everywhere it is connected with a story. Without a story, it's impossible to sell your idea. It's impossible to explain something. Like, say for example, in case of film, it is being said that your cinematography, your quality of your technology, it doesn't matter. The thing that does matter the most is the story. And that's how the legendary directors has become successful, by selecting the right type of story and by their methodology of storytelling. Similar thing is applicable for the writers as well. They also select a methodology to tell a story in such a nice and interesting manner that actually they can sell their concept. Similar thing is applicable to a leader as well. Business leader, it can be a country leader, community leader as well. But one thing is for sure, they were very much careful to craft their story. Like, say for example, Mahatma Gandhi, when was trying about non-violence, he was able to explain his thought process. If you think about different prophets like Gautam Buddha, then Jesus, anyone, their concept, their thought process is very clear, and that's what we learn on all the holy books. There, in fact, if you go to scripture or any other books, always it is being described with a story. So even for religion, story is very important. Without a story, you will not be able to understand some moral values. It's like Aesop fables, different types of childhood stories are there, where actually the primary reason of that storytelling is creating some moral values at the time of childhood, which is very important. So everywhere if you look, it's stories. Yes, the reasons are different, but primarily, yes, they want to sell a concept, share a concept, or explain something. And that's why story is going to be very important if you really want to achieve a success, and if you really want to talk about yourself, about your brand, about your business, then story is going to play a very important role for that. So what is story? Why, again, the same question will come. Why do we tell stories? Because stories solidify abstract concept and simplify complex messages. Sometimes if you only talk about theories, if you only talk about concepts, if you only talk about some bullet points, people would be extremely confused. They will never listen to you. Even if they listen, it would be very difficult for them to remember anything. But on the other hand, if you explain the same thing in terms of a story, a lot of cases you see the organization do not talk about their values directly, do not talk about their vision or mission directly. They only talk about their journey, the journey from the beginning, and how this values, this concept of their business has come into the picture. So actually, they are not directly talking about the values, vision and vision of the organization. They're giving a story just to explain the same. So, anywhere you go, you will always see and you will always experience confusion whenever you are trying to understand a new idea. But stories provide a way around that. So, whenever you really want to understand a concept, think about your school days. Your teacher always would try to explain something by giving a real life example, sometimes to solve a math problem as well, and some illustrations. It can be a visual illustration, it can be certain kind of data flow. Always, in different types of presentation, in different types of explanation, people use these tools. Right now, infographics, videos, everything is coming into the picture. Why? Because to tell a story, to make or solidify the abstract concept and simplify your complex messages. Do not make it complicated. Make it simple. Make it simple to understand. Nowadays, people use video as the most important tool to sell their products. So why video? Because it has the opportunity to tell a story. And that's how they can actually sell their products, the brand of their business. So stories are something which bring in people together. A person may not be very interested to listen to your boring story, your bullet points, or the journey of your organization in some technical and data driven thoughts. But whenever you are trying to convey the same message by telling a story, maybe through a video, maybe through a data flow, infograph, whatever, or maybe you just talk about it in a very nice manner in a storytelling mode, obviously people would be more interested to listen to you, and more important, they will be able to listen, they will be able to remember whatever you are saying. The impact would be much better. And that's the reason we always recommend that whenever you are selling your brand, whenever you are selling your business, it must be done through a story, not some dry conceptual notes, bullet points, or just an information. We will talk about more in the subsequent lectures. Thank you for listening. Bye bye.